right now, sitting in a lab somewhere, is data that could change how you live for the next 40 years. The Lancet Commission, one of the most respected medical bodies on the planet, found that 45% of dementia cases are preventable. Not maybe, not in theory. Preventable based on factors you control starting today. I'm not going to sell you a supplement. I'm not going to tell you to do a crossword puzzle and hope for the best. I'm going to give you 5 specific evidence-backed actions, the same ones I walk patients through, and explain exactly why they work on a biological level. If you've watched a parent lose themselves to this disease, this video is for you. Let's get into it. Here's what nobody tells you at the doctor's office. By the time you get a dementia diagnosis, the disease has usually been active in your brain for 15 to 20 years. Let that sink in. The plaques, the inflammation, the neural damage. It's a slow burn that starts in your 40s and 50s, sometimes earlier, while you feel completely fine. You're not going to get a warning shot. There's no pre-dementia checkup most people get. You live your life normally until one day you're calling your kid by your sibling's name, and now it's a crisis instead of a conversation. And the scary part? We've been told for decades this is just bad luck or bad genes. Genetics matter. But according to major twin studies, genetics only account for roughly 40 to 60% of risk. That means a massive portion of this is sitting in your daily choices. The coffee you drink, the hours you sleep, whether you're isolated or connected, whether your blood pressure is a number you've ignored for 10 years. This isn't about fear for fear's sake. It's about urgency. Because the actions that move the needle most aren't things you do at 75, they're things you start at 45, 35, even 25. So let's fix that. 5 things. Let's go. Quick gut check before we dive in. Comment below with the number 1 through 5 of which one of these you're already doing. I want to see where everyone's starting from. Here's something most people get backwards. What's good for your heart is good for your brain. Almost identically. Your brain uses 20% of your body's oxygen despite being 2% of your body weight. It is an absolute hog for blood flow. So when your cardiovascular system is compromised, high blood pressure, poor circulation, arterial stiffness, your brain is one of the first organs to suffer long before you feel symptoms anywhere else. The research here is some of the strongest in the entire prevention field. Aerobic exercise, specifically activity that raises your heart rate for sustained periods, has been shown to literally increase the volume of your hippocampus. That's the memory formation center of your brain. It's one of the only interventions that's been shown to grow brain tissue in adults, not just protect what's there. The target isn't complicated. 150 minutes a week of moderate cardio. Brisk walking counts, swimming counts, cycling counts. That's roughly 22 minutes a day. Not a marathon, not a gym membership you'll cancel in February. The mistake I see constantly, people doing only strength training and skipping cardio entirely, or vice versa. You need both, but if you only have time for one, prioritize getting your heart rate up consistently. This one surprises people the most. During deep sleep, your brain runs something called the glymphatic system. Think of it as a nightly power wash for your brain. It flushes out metabolic waste, including a protein called beta amyloid, which is the same protein that clumps together and forms the plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. If you're not getting enough deep sleep, that waste doesn't get cleared. It accumulates night after night, year after year. Studies have shown that even one night of sleep deprivation can increase beta amyloid levels in the brain measurably. Now multiply that by years of 5-hour nights. Here's the part people don't want to hear. It's not just about hours, it's about quality. You can be in bed for 8 hours and get garbage deep sleep if you're drinking alcohol before bed, scrolling your phone until midnight, or sleeping in a room that's too warm. 3 non-negotiables I give patients. Consistent sleep and wake time, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm rewards consistency more than duration. Cut off caffeine by early afternoon. It has a longer half-life than people realize and fragments deep sleep even if you fall asleep fine. And keep a cool, dark room. Around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit is the sweet spot for triggering deep sleep cycles. This isn't a luxury habit. This is brain maintenance. If this is making you rethink your routine, that's the point. Stick around. Step 3 is the one almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most powerful one on this list. This is the one I wish more doctors talked about because the data is honestly startling. Chronic social isolation has been associated with up to a 50% increased risk of dementia in long term studies. Let me explain why, because this isn't just loneliness is sad, there's a real mechanism. Social interaction is cognitively demanding in a good way. Reading facial expressions, tracking conversation, remembering context, navigating group dynamics. This is a full body workout for your brain's executive function. When that input disappears, particularly after retirement or after losing a spouse, cognitive decline can accelerate noticeably faster. There's also a depression link. Isolation drives up rates of depression, and depression itself is an independent risk factor for dementia. So you get a compounding effect, two risk pathways feeding each other. The fix isn't complicated, but it has to be intentional, especially as life naturally narrows social circles with age. I tell patients, build a standing weekly commitment with another person, not we should catch up sometime, an actual recurring thing. A call, a walk, a class. Prioritize face to face over text. The cognitive benefit comes from real time social processing. And if you're caregiving for someone with cognitive decline, protect your own social contact fiercely. Caregiver isolation is a huge, underdiscussed risk multiplier. This is medicine. Treat it like medicine. You've probably heard Alzheimer's referred to by some researchers as type 3 diabetes. That's not a throwaway nickname, it reflects real biology. Your brain runs almost entirely on glucose. When you have chronically elevated blood sugar and insulin resistance, your brain cells lose their ability to efficiently use that fuel. Over years, this is associated with shrinkage in the hippocampus and accelerated cognitive decline, and it happens whether or not you've ever been formally diagnosed with diabetes. Prediabetes alone raises dementia risk. This is where I push back on people the most because the messaging around blood sugar has been muddied by fad diets and conflicting headlines. Here's what actually matters. Minimize ultra-processed carbs and added sugar, not never eat carbs, but stop the constant blood sugar spikes from sodas, white bread, pastries, and snack foods. Walk after meals. Even a 10-minute walk after eating measurably blunts the glucose spike, one of the highest leverage, lowest effort habits on this entire list. Prioritize fiber and protein at meals. They slow glucose absorption and keep you stable for hours instead of spiking and crashing. And get your fasting glucose and HbA1c checked annually, even if you feel fine. Insulin resistance is silent for years. This single category, metabolic health, is one of the most modifiable risk factors we have, and it's also one of the most ignored until something goes wrong. Okay, last one, and honestly, this is the step most people skip because it doesn't feel medical. It is. I'll bet almost nobody expected this one. Hearing loss is now considered, according to the Lancet Commission's own ranking, the single largest modifiable risk factor for dementia of all the factors they studied. Bigger than physical inactivity, bigger than smoking. Here's why. When your brain isn't receiving clear auditory input, it has to work overtime to fill in gaps, which over years drains cognitive resources that would otherwise go toward memory and processing. There's also a secondary effect. Hearing loss drives people to withdraw socially because conversations become exhausting and embarrassing, which loops right back into the isolation risk from earlier. And the part that frustrates me most, hearing loss is one of the most undertreated conditions in medicine. People wait an average of 7 years between noticing symptoms and actually getting hearing aids, often out of vanity or because they assume it's a minor inconvenience. It's not minor. It's a direct line to your brain's cognitive load. What to do? Get a baseline hearing test in your 40s or 50s, even with no symptoms. Don't wait for obvious loss. If you're diagnosed with hearing loss, treat it immediately. Studies show using hearing aids is associated with meaningfully slower cognitive decline compared to untreated hearing loss. And protect your hearing now. Wear protection around loud machinery, concerts, and power tools. This is prevention, not just correction. Let's bring it all together because this only works if you actually do something with it. Move your heart rate, 150 minutes of cardio a week, non-negotiable. Protect deep sleep, consistency, no late caffeine, cool dark room. Treat isolation as a medical risk. Build real recurring human connection. Control blood sugar. Walk after meals. Cut the processed carb spikes. Get tested annually. And take your hearing seriously. Test it, treat it, protect it. None of these are flashy. There's no pill in this video, no $80 supplement, no biohacking gadget. That's actually the point. The things that move the needle most on dementia risk are the boring, consistent, unsexy habits that compound over decades. You don't need to do all 5 perfectly starting tomorrow. Pick one, the one you're weakest on. Start there this week. If this video gave you something you didn't know before, do 2 things. Subscribe, because I break down prevention-focused medicine like this every week. No fear-mongering, just what the research actually shows. And share this with the one person in your life who needs to hear it. A parent, a sibling, someone you love. Drop a comment with which step you're starting with. I read everyone. I'll see you in the next video.